Rocky Balboa famously said, "Life is not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." You know, as we travel around and meet different students that are involved in campus clubs or doing campus missionary work, we find that sometimes they feel like they're alone. Like maybe the struggles they face are unique to them. Well, that's not true. The struggles that you face, other people are facing too. And the discouragement that you might come up against, other clubs and leaders and campus missionaries, they're dealing with the same thing. And so I want to take the next few minutes just to talk to you about discouragement, about coming up against it, about how you can stay with it and keep moving forward no matter what you get hit with. You know, discouragement is a natural part of success in life. And as a campus missionary or a club leader or someone just simply trying to make a positive difference on your campus, you are going to face times of discouragement, times when you feel like you want to quit. You know, you have dreams and goals for your particular life, and sometimes they don't come out the way that you think. Things aren't working out. You're coming up against roadblocks, and you feel like you want to give up. Over the years of working with students, I've had times when I'm driving home after youth group on a Wednesday night and I wanted to resign. You know, if every Thursday morning I got to do what I wanted to do based on my feelings of the night before, I'd have been long gone. I remember one time in particular, I came home after a youth service on a Wednesday night and things didn't go according to plan. I just felt like I wasn't been able to do it and I was a failure. And I sat and talked to my wife, and she had contemplated things for a little while, and we talked for a little bit. And then the next day she came to me and said, "You know, James, last night I had this thought that I really felt like was from the Lord, and I wanted to share it with you." She began to share that what the picture that she had was that every time that I began to get discouraged, every time there was a failure, every time there was a disappointment, things didn't turn out the way that I thought. It was like the enemy was piling those things up like dead bodies right in front of me. And all I saw was that death and destruction right in front of me. And what it did was it obscured my view from what was on the other side. Sometimes we have to press through those times of discouragement. We might just see the things that are getting piled up in front of us, and they blind us to the other side. Right on the other side of those things that can discourage you, those apparent failures, things not working out the way that you think, is what you want to see happen. And so sometimes we've got to press through and break through that. And that was huge for me as my wife shared that picture with me. And I never forgot that. It stayed with me for the rest of my ministry. And I want to encourage you in that way. You might see those things getting piled up in front of you. You might think that you're the only one that's going through that. That's those kind of struggles and problems. They're common to everybody that's trying to do something significant. So I want to encourage you. Don't give up. Press through. Right on the other side of that, it can be that thing that you've always wanted, that thing that you've dreamed about, the thing that you've pressed in for. And so don't give up. Stay strong. Keep moving forward. I was leading a youth ministry in Central California, and I had a group of students come to me and say, "You know, Pastor James, we have this desire to hang out with other believers. Maybe some of them don't go to our church, but we're realizing that there's kids that we're meeting at school. They go to a different church. How can we combine forces? How can we do something significant so that we can make a difference on our campus? Because it's not just our youth group. It's got to be other groups of kids coming together, other groups of students coming together to make a difference on our campus. So we decided to have a service, and we invited all the youth groups in town together on a Sunday night, and we got the food ready. We practiced the worship set. We got a special speaker, and we were all ready to go, and no one came. Only 12 students showed up, and they were discouraged. And I remember we kind of abandoned all that we thought, and we just sat there and sang songs and prayed. But the kids came back and said, "You know what? It might have not been what we thought it was going to be, but we don't want to abandon this idea. So we thought we wanted to do it every month. So Pastor James, we want to do it again." So the next month, some other students showed up. And the next month after that, a little bit more. By 9 months of doing this every single month, We had 300 students coming together from 7 to 12 different youth groups. And then they started praying together on their campuses. They started meeting before school in a particular spot and praying together. Students from different youth groups, different churches, maybe a little bit different beliefs from time to time. But you know what? That didn't matter because they had one thing in common. They wanted to see Jesus impact their schools. And it started small. And they could have gave up. After only 12 students, nobody showed up. Only 12 kids from our church did this thing. And yet they kept moving forward. They pressed through. They didn't allow discouragement to come. And they kept their goals in mind. They understood that for them to have that success that they wanted, they're going to have to press through that. And they had to look past the discouragement. You know, in the Bible, we read about the Joseph. And we know that Joseph went through so many different things. He's taken slave. He's a prisoner. He's a foreigner in a foreign land. And his own family, in one sense, his brothers betrayed him. And years later, here's Joseph, and he's been given much favor. And he meets his family again, face to face. And they're scared. They're thinking, oh man, if he has an opportunity to take vengeance on us, we are in trouble. And Joseph says something that's really striking. He says, you know, you might have meant all this for one thing, but at the end, in fact, it says this, it says, God has sent me ahead of you to keep you and your families alive. See, Joseph understood that God had a greater purpose in mind. So his brothers meant to destroy him, and now they get busted. And then he comes and has an opportunity to get back, and he says, you know what, all those things, they could have discouraged me. I could have gave up. I could have packed it in. But I see now that God had a purpose in this whole thing. Now I'm here. I'm able to save you, and I'm able to save our whole country. Joseph understood that he was a part of the bigger picture. Sometimes when we look at things and they can be discouraging and we can think that we're all alone, that no one else is going through this, that no one else understands, we can look and understand that when we look at a guy like Joseph, he understood that he was a part of something. He was a part of a plan. And things might not always turn out the way he thought, but in the end, God will accomplish his purposes. And you have to keep that in mind. You have to keep the big picture in mind. So let me leave you with these three things. First, campus missions is going to bring difficulties and discouragement. You are going to have times of failure. Number two, I don't want you to focus on those failures or those discouragements. You have to learn to look past them. On the other side, you're going to find those things that you've been striving to accomplish for Jesus. Number three, I want you to stay focused on the big picture. Remember, keep moving forward.